Well, hello there, our FastPass friends. Um, so this is another FastPass episode of the Hubgrass. Just a quick couple minutes to kind of talk about some things weren't able to cover within our episode this week. So I know we wanted to cover spoilers for the Jungle Cruise, so we're going to be getting to that. But first, we did have some news drop within the new Magic Key program that's dropping, sort of the new annual pass form in Disneyland. So I wanted to talk about that with you, Matt, really quick, um, and just kind of get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's something that well, especially Disneyland fans have been waiting for a while to hear about because that really affects
Yeah.
them. This is their annual pass system. And looking at the pricing, and we can go to the pricing here in a second, I don't really see much of a difference between what the old annual pass was versus this new Magic Key system, barring that they now have to do reservations. So for me, the big
Mm-hmm.
news with this announcement is that reservations aren't going away for park reservations. The idea of just going to whatever park you want on that day is kind of gone at this point, and you really have to plan out your trips to Disneyland. And the one thing that I've heard from people that I follow that live in California is
Mm-hmm.
that the idea of them just waking up on a Saturday morning and going just have a fun day is kind of lost at this point, unless you've scheduled that potentially a month in advance at this point. Who knows how quick those reservations will go? So
Yeah.
that's the big kind of loss in that lifestyle for them, is that ease and that whim of leaving New York Disneyland whenever they want. So it really forces
Mm-hmm.
them to structure their day. But pricing really isn't anything astronomical. It's very similar to at least what I think is, at least my perception and memory was, it's pretty close to the pricing that was there before. And they still
Mm-hmm.
are offering the monthly installment plan. So I don't think it's really a big loss monetarily for Disneyland guests.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean the pricing seemed pretty reasonable
Yeah.
when I took a look at it. I'm not maybe I'm optimistic that maybe the reservation bit isn't going to be a permanent
I would
fixture.
agree. I would agree.
Maybe it'll still, I think it'll linger for maybe another year or two, but hopefully that would drop off.
Yeah.
Um, and if you want to just reserve a time and in advance on kind of a whim of like
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'll go and maybe I'll just go in for the kind of the locals that are just adults,
Yeah.
go in, ride a ride or two, have a drink,
Mm-hmm.
or a meal or something, and then that I get it. I get the annoying bit of that having to have that extra bit of thought into it.
Yeah.
I'm again, it's really not for you and me
No.
because we're over on East Coast, but
Well, yeah.
it may
Yeah.
we may see this kind of trickle into our
Mm-hmm.
our system here. Maybe ours is going to be exactly as it was. I don't know. We'll find out with time.
Yeah, well, because they just announced this week as well that the selling of annual passes will resume right before the 50th anniversary begins, so before October 1st.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see if they bring back the original annual pass system and don't touch it. I know there's been some rumblings of maybe this will bleed into Walt Disney World, but I don't think it will. And this is
Okay.
because the demographic of guests is much different from Disney World to Disneyland as a whole, because Disneyland is much more of a local park. And so I
Yeah.
think the
You're
issue
absolutely right.
for I think the issue for the past like 5 or so years has been weekends have been so busy that out of town guests can't enjoy themselves because it's so packed. It's like a local mall, I guess, at some points. So I think this is a way for them to really do more precise crowd control with their guests,
Yeah.
which I think
Yeah.
is a good thing because I think this is both domestic parks is that crowds have become out of hand in the past few years. So
Absolutely. Yeah,
this
we
might
were
be a good
talking
thing.
about that. Yeah, I was talking about that on my live stream last night, which sort of led into our whole fifth gate discussion that you popped in on.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The crowd control is a huge thing now, and yeah, there aren't a ton of options, for workarounds on the West Coast. So this is probably one of them, and
Yeah.
there's probably going to be a bit more restrictions on the weekends.
Yeah, because I know unless you have the premium pass, or I think they're calling it the Dream Key, you will have more blackout dates than it sounds like than there was with the other passes. So the Dream Key has no blackout dates. There is black. I did find it odd that there will be blackout dates for parking because like you get free parking with Dream Key, but certain days you won't. So that's interesting to me.
Weird.
Yeah, it's a very odd little asterisk on that, but
Interesting. Well, there were typos. There are typos on all kinds of things. We're going to go into this more later, but there were typos on that new itinerary that came out for the Star
oh
Wars
yeah,
Star Cruiser, and they accidentally typed on the itinerary that they're getting lunch at 12 a.m. at
oh
Docking
really?
Bay 7. So
Oops.
might be,
Yeah.
might be something that gets fixed. Who
Yes.
knows?
Yeah, but
We'll jump in
I'm looking
error.
forward to talking about Jungle or Star Cruiser, but I think we have a video set for this coming week. You'll hear on Wednesday, but I think the following week we'll be talking about Galaxy's Edge and especially the Star Cruiser because I think there's a lot to unpack there. A lot to
Definitely.
unpack there.
Definitely. But speaking of another type of cruise, do you want to jump over into the Jungle Cruise spoilers we
Yes.
talked about, where
Yes.
we were kind of foreshadowed on this week's episode? So, where do we begin?
Yeah, where I want to begin is I think I want to tap into, or at least make a comment on something we talked about briefly in in our original episode about the kind of your, I'm not say annoyance, but your kind of criticism of having the two sets of villains, and
Yes. Yep.
I was really thinking about it after after the show, or really even during the show, because his name's Prince Joachim or something like that, and he's a
Yeah.
German royal. And if I remember correctly, the movie happened. I think they made a note prior to the start of, or when the movie started, that it was either a couple years before World War I or World War II. I don't recall.
It's actually during World War One. It's set in 1916. Let me actually double check because my history is
Yeah,
kind of
because
wacky.
it said either 2 years prior to the Great War or two years into the Great War. I don't remember what it said
Yeah.
in the opening
What was
crawl,
the timeline for?
or like while
There was a
Lily's brother was
crawl?
talking to the society.
Yeah, no, they're 2 years into the
Okay,
war,
okay, so
and technically 2 years out of towards the almost to the end of the war. So
yeah,
yeah, so the World War One started in 1914, and it is 1916 in the film.
yeah, okay, that makes more sense because he wasn't a Nazi at this point. And so my defense of that was at least thinking about like the Nazi, like when the Nazis were looking for ways to win the war, and they kind of looked to, and in reality, Red Skull is kind of obviously a comic book character, but he does reflect some bit of history when Hitler and his minions were looking for any way to gain greater power, and one of those things was kind of looking at supernatural options, or at least
The
explore.
Ark of the
Yeah,
Covenant.
yeah. We see it in many different parts of cinema, but it's not that fictional. He was looking for mythical items to make him even more powerful,
Yeah.
and to me, that kind of touched upon that reality of a German looking and working with these supernatural entities that he's contacted.
Yeah.
And so it made sense as a period piece is that we saw Prince Joachim teaming up with these characters in a way, these conquistadors, and using their power and their supernatural potential to further his agenda. So that for me, it made sense in that regard.
It, I don't know. Like it made, but I think the quest overall makes sense. Like that he's looking for a supernatural item, you know.
Yeah.
But I feel like again, it gets too muddled. I feel like you have most of the development, you know, villain wise from him.
Sure.
And then you have the conquistadors show up, cause some havoc, reveal Frank's big secret. You know
Yeah.
that he's one of them. And then, but that's it. And then you don't see them again, really, until the end. So I feel like you've just sort of wasted a bunch of time with like a bunch of characters that were unnecessary when you could have made Frank just the one conquistador and be like, yeah, that is me. I made a mistake. I, you know, I was a bad person, or I didn't do the right thing, and it's taken me, several hundred years, and I've learned from there, and I've appreciated this place, and I've grown from that.
And I don't think Frank even was a bad person from the jump. He was
No,
uh,
no, but I'm saying you could have
I
combined
see what
him
you're
and the
saying.
main conquistador character, kind of folded them together into one,
Yeah.
and gone from there.
Yeah,
And just sort of streamlined it.
yeah, and honestly, I think they brought in those conquistadors with their kind of supernatural abilities. I would say in a way, just to like pay homage, not really pay homage, but kind of stick to that formula that we saw in Pirates of
Pirates formula.
having. It was very Pirates in that sense because Jack obviously was part of the cursed crew, but didn't have the curse on him towards the end. But he was still part of that crew, whereas Dwayne Johnson's character Frank had that curse on him from the jump, and it was revealed and that he had that, and it forced him to kind of deal with those demons again that he had to deal with that 400 years ago, and trapping them in that dry spot in on the river. So I don't know. I honestly hate it. I thought it was.
No, I don't hate it.
It
No.
added some visual and more mythological appeal to it, in my opinion. Obviously, the tears were mythological enough in a way,
Yeah.
but I thought it added some visual appeal, and I wasn't super bothered by it. I thought, I thought both sets of villains were fun. I think, what's the character's name? Jesse Plemons was super hilarious in that role. Super fun in that role.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we get to see him. And that
He's a good actor. I like him.
He's great. It's funny because I first knew about him through Breaking Bad, and so it's now funny to see him as like the big bad versus back then he was this kind of little peon in a redneck gang. So
Yeah.
it's fun to see him in bigger roles.
Yeah. Well, how about jumping over? How about the references? Because those are pretty great. I mean, you had Trader Sam, which I did not think we were going to get,
No.
which I'm happy about, and I think they did it well. They handled it very well.
And yeah,
If the
they paid homage to the Walt Disney World Trader Sam versus the Disneyland Trader Sam.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you could, theoretically have Sam pop up again, if they continued the series. If you want to make it a different Sam, you can. Or you could have it be, this Sam just sort of finds herself in all kinds of different situations.
Well,
and
yeah, and
somehow just pops up wherever they are next.
Well, I feel like
It'd be
I
fun.
felt like they set her up to be, well, spoiler alert, it's a girl, it's a woman, I really felt like they set her up as a potentially recurring character. She felt kind
Hmm.
of Gibbs-ish, if I'm going to
Yeah,
compare to
absolutely.
um, Pirates, so it felt very Gibbs-like. Um,
Yeah.
because they, it's something they've been longtime friends, and she's always been there, kind of have his back and kind of assisted him in some of his ruses. Because we find out that the the attacking tribe that he uses on his jungle cruises is part of her crew. Um,
Hmm.
and but to references, I again that we talked about on the main show is I loved all of the jokes that they referred to with the backside of
Oh yeah.
water, with the hippo. I thought was really neat. With he had his own little animatronic hippo, or at least animated hippo that he used on the cruise,
Yeah.
and oh yeah, all of the actual skipper jokes I think were well placed and done very tastefully, and it didn't take away from his story. And it really, like I said on before, it felt like he was a Jungle Cruise skipper, which I really loved.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I only picked out two other characters that were references. Obviously, Albert
Yeah.
Falls was referenced there, and then you had Rosita,
Oh yeah.
who, as Nilo's bird, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
That was great. Made me happy. Um, and then you kind of have the society kind of ambiguously brought in,
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
and they were kind of jerks.
well,
So
and I think it was odd that there was it was such a large society, because our
yeah,
perception of the society has always been that they're very select few,
very small.
and even like the photos we've seen of the society together, there's 10 of them maybe. And so I'm wondering if
Maybe that's
each
not them.
well, I'm wondering if each member has their own like branch of the society that does a lot of their research and organization of their travels and their ephemera, because
Hmm.
I don't want to see them as like a chapter of the society, but there's like the actual like society, like the ranking members now,
Hmm.
that are actually the ones that we want to listen to and are interested in, not these, um, in this case, these bearded bearded men in a large auditorium listening to um, papers and asking for funding. So
Yeah.
I, I
I
would love to explore that more exclusive group than the smaller offshoots.
I thought it might be fun if they retconned it in the next
Mm.
one, where like Albert Falls like came in, kind of like the beginning of Atlantis, and he's like, and he meets them, and he's like, listen, I heard about what they did to you, and I'm so sorry. I left, and I've formed my own kind of small group of clandestine individuals, um, and you know, with who are
Yeah.
hoping to do some good, like you're doing. It's based on this legendary group that formed in the Renaissance and blah
No,
blah
yeah.
blah. But he just sort of forms it out of that, and he's like, "There's a spot for you,
Hmm.
um,
Well, in
if you're
yeah, and I
willing."
think they left it very ambiguous because they never referred to it as the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. It was just the Society,
Yeah.
and we also never got a C logo, which I thought that at least we'd get a little
Hmm.
flash of that. So I think you're
Yeah.
right. I think they're opening it up to maybe each member has a society that they kind of manage in that way
Hmm.
of monitoring and keeping all of their ephemera safe in their own little
Yeah.
areas. But then they're also part of the
Very good
actual
word.
society of explorers and adventurers. These ranking
Yeah.
members.
I did notice a plaque on the outside of the
I
building where they were, but
yes,
it was always too fast. I couldn't
yeah,
read it. So, and I'm not paying $30 yet to
yeah.
just to freeze frame it.
Yeah, I think some
But
of my
yeah.
family members are planning on rent or purchasing it, so I might hop into their Disney Plus accounts whenever they purchase it. So because I was like wanting to freeze frame those few scenes. It didn't look
Yeah.
from first glance to be an actual Society of Explorers and Adventurers plaque. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what they actually call it, or what
Hmm.
Albert Falls's um, exclusive like branch is called.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, and then just last thought here. How did you feel with the big twist that Frank was one of the conquistadors? How
I
did you like that
it was
twist?
one of the things where to be honest, I didn't see it coming right away, and
Yeah.
which I enjoyed because typically a lot of movies I can see like, oh, that's happening from a mile away. So it was refreshing to have kind of an actual surprise, for one. And
Hmm.
two, I think it added some depth to his character. It added some. Um, I'm not sure how I feel about it. At the end of the day, I like it, um, and
Hmm.
I didn't hate it. But anything deeper than that, I haven't formulated that deep of thought yet. What is your thoughts
Hmm.
on it?
Yeah, I thought that I liked it. I thought it added a complexity to his character that wasn't there before. I do feel like as soon as that mask kind of came
Hmm.
off, if you will, it did his character did change quite a bit because then it kind of had this weird theme of I want to get the pedal so I can basically kill
Yeah,
myself. So that was sort of, and that's a weird theme to have in a family film,
yeah,
but I'm not knocking it. But it's just kind of weird
yeah.
sometimes to have that kind of stuff. But you know, I don't mind. I don't mind those. You know, that's those things because they handled it well, and
Hmm.
you know, we'll we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well, yeah, and I think it added some weight to their love interest.
that's
Spoiler
true.
alert, or
That's
not really
very
spoiler
true.
alert, 'cause it's a spoiler talk. Lily and Frank do form a romantic relationship, so I think it added some weight to that
Hmm.
that tension, that romantic energy between them. So I thought it was an interesting aspect, but again I think it further bonded him and to the conquistadors and made more sense of that tension between the two groups.
Yeah. Last thing I want to end
Hmm.
on, and I'm sorry for bringing it up. This film had a lot of nerve because not only did they cash in on my fear of snakes, they cashed in on my trypophobia, which is fear of like the honeycomb
Yeah.
pattern with the bee guy. So I was just dying. I was like, this is not. Oh dear.
Oh, the honeycomb guy.
Yeah, I mean the designs were interesting, definitely interesting. They looked a little plasticky. I
Uh
don't
huh.
think the effects were fully there. Um, they just looked a little too fake,
Yeah.
which I kind of referenced before.
Sure.
But even still, it was freaky. It was very
Yeah.
freaky.
I have some trypophobia myself.
Hmm.
It's very unique. Honeycombs don't bother me, but those one plants with the I don't know what they're called, but they're in some like they're in a
Yeah,
lot of home decor at this point, and I hate them. I hate
yeah,
them. I I, I,
yeah.
I need to send you a Funko Pop that has it's like a trypophobian nightmare.
I
It's
did a
it's
I
it,
did a
it, it's
sketch
it's from
once.
some anime. I don't really know what anime it is, but I've seen it
Okay,
on the Funko Pop website, and I was
send
like,
it my
I
way.
hate it.
Give me the
Yes, it's
nightmares.
awful. It's awful.
Yeah. And but yeah, yeah. Uh anyways, guys, we really appreciate you watching our Fast Pass little episode here. Again, these are just fun, quick little adages or addendums to our episodes that we record during the week. If you do not have not watched our full episodes yet, please go check that out on our page. And if you want to come check us out on social media, you can find us on Instagram at On the Hubgrass Pod. But until next time, folks, there is a great, big, beautiful podcast just a stream away, not a scream away, stream away. We'll see you on the Hubgrass.